42 different countries, having more than 600 people. Having the CEO here costs a fuckload of money. So huge startup round of applause to welcome Pere Vallès on stage. On your feet! On your feet! Venga, separad. Yeah, thank you. Pere, how many times, welcome, first of all, how many times have you been welcomed as a rock star?
It's the first time.
It's the first time. Do you feel special?
I do. Thank you.
Your employees don't treat you like this every morning?
No, they don't.
Malaka, we need to change something at Scytl. Okay, so I'm going to be introducing you a little bit. Who comes here specifically because he wanted to hear Pere or know Scytl? Because we've got quite a bunch of people that don't know Scytl at all. You know Scytl? Just 3 people know Scytl? 4, 5? Okay. So we need to. I will be asking you about the pitch. Okay. Pere basically studied economics and law at the UB, if I remember correctly. And in 2004, he joined forces with Scytl back when they were a spin-off of the UAB, Universidad Autónoma de Barcelona, when they were a group of researchers. There were only 12 people there, and they wanted to become a company, right? So you joined them. Right now, as of now, they're operating in 42 different countries, having more than 600 people employed. Congratulations, Pere. How did you reach that?
Thank you. It's been a journey. I mean, it doesn't happen overnight. When we started, as you said, we were a group of academics, people who had done research in the field of cryptography, applied to electronic voting. As you said, in 2004, what we had a great technology, but we didn't have a market, and we didn't have customers, and we had to build a company. So little by little, we build the company that we are today.
Little by little, let's just start from the very beginning, because one of you guys sent this question to Twitter, actually. Can you tell us about your childhood? Is there something from your childhood that you want to share? Like, where did you grow up? What did you study? And how did you become the person you are today?
No, I was trying to think.
You didn't expect that.
I was trying to I was going to make a joke, but I would.
Go on.
No, I had a good childhood. Actually, my family, they are all attorneys. They are no entrepreneurs, so I'm actually kind of the black sheep in the family. But there was nothing really in my childhood that could explain why I am here today. My background is more in finance. I work in M&A for many years in the US, for 10 years in the technology and telecom space. And I guess by seeing other people do it, I felt like trying to do it. I was not the founder of the company, so it's not like I started the company from zero. But I took over a project that was at a very early stage, and I feel now that it's my own project.
Cool. It's really cool because sometimes we try to keep it diverse here. We not only have founders, we not only have tech startups. We have always tried to mix it a little bit. Can we get a bottle of water? A couple of them. Thank you. And one of the questions that really resonates a lot with our speakers is, if you were 18, if you could talk to your 18-year-old self, what would you tell him? If you could meet your 18-year-old Pere Vallès.
I would say I would tell him to enjoy what he's doing when he's doing it. Sometimes you think a little bit too much of the future, too little of the present, and you have to enjoy what you're doing, and then I would also tell him not to be afraid, not to be concerned or scared of failure. Failure is a possibility. It happens, and you have to accept it and take it as it is. Basically, do what you want when you want it.
Cool. Actually, talking about failure, I was going to ask this a little bit farther into the conversation, but now that you bring up the topic is, have you got any personal failure that you want to share with the audience tonight so that we don't repeat it?
I was going to say, I brought my personal failure. He's my colleague at Scytl. Actually, in the previous presentation, I think it was Adria's presentation, there was one thing, one mistake that I think is typical of startups, which is that startups, because they have very little resources, they try to be very cheap, and they try to hire people that are not very expensive. And what I've learned through failure is that usually the people that are not very expensive is for some reason, and And it's better to, instead of maybe having 2 sales guys that are so-so, having one great sales guy and pay him a decent salary. You know, that's one of the things I've learned. And then as the company has grown, where I think I fail sometimes is when you grow, basically the team has to grow with you, and there are some people within the team that maybe cannot grow. You know, you need to know when you need to look for another person to replace those people, and that's a very difficult decision because you have good personal connections with those people. They've done well, you know, they've taken you where you are. Changing them by somebody else, it's not evident sometimes, but in you know that they will not be able to take you to the next level, and you need to force yourself to make that change.
Now that you mention it, there's a lot of consensus with the previous speakers who always finish saying hire slow, fire fast. Do you agree with that?
Well, I do because the mistakes when you hire somebody until you realize that he's not the right person, and then until you make the decision that you have to replace him, and finding the replacement, you lose a lot of time, and basically time is something that you don't have in a startup. Every year in a startup is like 4 years in a normal company, you know. So if you hire the wrong VP of sales, you're making a big mistake that can take the company under, you know. So, yeah, I would say you have to be very careful how you hire people. Fire fast, I don't know. I don't know about that. I think you need to give people sufficient opportunity to perform, you know. I've seen sometimes in some startups that they fire the sales guys because they haven't sold anything in 3 months, you know, and they're selling to the public sector, which usually takes 6 months just to build a pipeline, you know. So I think you need to be a little bit patient with people and give people sufficient opportunity to perform.
Cool, thank you. Actually, before delving into Scytl, there's this question that we always ask to all of our speakers, is that there's a lot of people here that they want to quit their jobs or they want to start a startup. And if you could give some piece of advice to them as to what should they do it, what would it be? Like the final push.
I don't know if I would give them any advice to leave their day jobs and start a new company. I think it's a very personal decision. It involves a lot of risks. It's not for everyone, really. I think right now there's a little bit of a hype, you know, that
exactly. Yeah.
Starting a business or starting a new venture is something that everybody should do, and I don't think it's for everyone. I think you need to be very conscious that there is a fairly high likelihood that you're going to fail, so you need to be a person that is able to accept failure. You need to be also, I would say, psychologically resilient. You know, you need to have psychological strength, because you need to know how to deal with rejection, with the small failures, with the small mistakes that you're going to be making. And then you need to be in a situation in your lives where you can afford failing, you know, because at the end, if you have a family with 10 kids, you know, I would advise you to quit your job and start a new company.
Cool. Yeah, this is something we get a lot lately, that not everybody is born to be an entrepreneur, right? But actually you quit your corporate job, so you studied an MBA in Indiana, if I remember correctly. Yep. Then you were working in KPMG, and what was it called? Global Net. You were the CFO there. It was a Nasdaq public company. And why did you quit all the stability in order to join a spin-off from the UAB?
Because of my wife.
Okay.
Because she made me. No, because we sold Global Net, the company I was working for as CFO, and we were in the U.S. We had been for 10 years in the U.S. In different places. We had to relocate again. Mm-hmm. My wife is from Barcelona. She wanted to come back. And at the time, in 2004, it's not like right now. You know, there were not that many technology startups. There were, I don't know, a handful, maybe not even a handful of technology companies in Barcelona. So there were not really a lot of choices. And I wanted to be in an entrepreneurial type of environment. I wanted to come back to Barcelona. And this was a company that had a technology that had true global potential in a market that was completely new. and I felt that there was an opportunity to really lead the disruption of a new market, like the election market, from a company based in Barcelona, and that was quite unique at the time. Now it's not maybe as unique, but still I think to be able to lead the transformation of a market at the worldwide level, being able to do it from your hometown is something that is quite special.
Well, let's go into the main topic, which is going to be Scytl, obviously. And what would you say is your pitch? What's Scytl pitch? So that everybody in the room knows what you're doing.
Scytl, I think it's easy to explain what we do, because everybody is a user or potential user of elections who is at least 18 years old. And basically the pitch is that the election industry is a very large industry. Governments all over the world are currently spending $25 billion every year in running elections, but it is still a very antiquated industry. It's an industry where there is very little penetration of technology, and therefore it's an industry that is ready to be disrupted and transformed through technology. And Sitel is the company that is leading this transformation, and what we do is we bring software and the internet into the election space with the objective of making elections more efficient to run by governments, more accessible to citizens, and in countries that have problems with election fraud, we use technology to prevent and mitigate the possibility of fraud and to increase transparency.
So right now I was taking a look at the clients that you've got through the website. So you can go to scytl.com/customers, if I remember correctly. You can see all the states and counties and countries in the world that are using your technology. It's really impressive. How you guys transformed from 2004, a group of 12 researchers, to the mammoth that you are today. How did you do it? How the change happened in 12 years?
Well, the key,
14 years.
I guess the key, as in every market, but especially in a market like ours, at the end we're selling a very complex technology for critical processes like elections to the most risk-averse customers in the world, which are the governments. So the key is to have that first reference, to have that first government that puts their lives in your hands, because at the end, what we do is very delicate. We are running national elections, and when somebody gives us that responsibility, we're the surgeons of democracy, in that country, and we have to be very careful with what we do, and we need to make sure that we are successful at what we do. So getting that first customer that puts that trust on you, I think that's the key, and it took us a while. The company was founded in 2001 as a spin-off. I was very lucky to join in 2004, which is when we got our first real customer, because until then we had done pilots for universities, pilots for professional associations, but we hadn't really run a national election for a country, And in 2004 we got Switzerland, which was the first country that trusted us and used online voting in their election process. And since then, we've been able to leverage on all the references that we've been able to create. With that, we've been able to grow very rapidly.
We normally ask about how to get the first customer, right? And when you're running a SaaS startup, I got that friend, so the triple F, right? Friends, family, and fools, they are your first customers. They got the government of Switzerland. How do you get that?
Well, first it was a canton in Switzerland.
Okay.
Basically, it was a very long process. I can say, it was not a question of money, So in our customers, when you sell something, usually one of the key decision factors is the price. In our case, it's not the price. Actually, in our case, if you price your solution too low, it can generate the perception that it's not very high quality or it's not very secure. So price is not a factor that influences. So giving things for free doesn't work when you deal with government. In our case, was basically demonstrating to our scientists and through our technicians, to their scientists and their technicians, that what we were saying that we could do could really be done safely, and that's a process that takes a long time. And then finding the government finding that person, because at the end governments it's a very abstract thing when you say government, but the governments are also people, and you need to find that person within government that wants to be a champion, that wants to be the first one to do something, that wants to make history. Identifying that individual, and then with a lot of effort, convincing all the key stakeholders, because at the end governments also are groups of people, and there are different interests within governments. There are the political parties, the election officials, the citizens. So convincing all the different key stakeholders that this can be done, and that you can be the first one to do it, and that you can do it with this small company in Barcelona, and you're going to be successful. That's a process that takes time, but it's worth it once you get it. At the end, governments are very risk averse, so they don't want to be the first ones to try something that nobody has tried before. So once you are the one that has those references, you can build very quickly a leadership position in the marketplace.
Good. Actually, how many people here is trying to sell services or product to public administration? Is there anybody here? 1, 2, 3, 4 people, 5? Yeah, good. No, actually, the main takeaway from this is that, first of all, giving things for free don't work, which is probably very hard truth, right? So probably you are always approaching when in your sales process to say, okay, we can do it for free for you, right? So would you say that is a big mistake in startups?
I think giving for free is definitely not the right approach. I think giving it at a huge discount might be the right approach, but it's important always that the customer has some skin in the game and has some investment, because otherwise they don't take the pilot or the project that you're doing seriously.
Yeah.
When you're selling a critical application for a critical process, like in our case, even giving it at a big discount can be perceived as maybe this is not that great, or maybe this is not that secure, so it can be counterproductive. But I guess in other industries, giving it a big discount might work. But I always advise against giving anything for free, because then the customer doesn't value it and doesn't put the resources or the time and effort necessary to really implement a successful project.
Cool. In your case specifically, so targeting or having the opportunity to operate with the government of Switzerland is really a huge opportunity. What do you think leveraged the opportunity towards your favor? Would you say it was your background in a NASDAQ company, or the team, or because nobody wants to trust in a startup nowadays, so why doing it in 2004?
Honestly, I remember I accepted the offer to join Scytl. I was in Chicago back then, and they told me that they had this great opportunity in the pipeline. I thought,
they had it already.
We'll see. Yeah, they had it in the pipeline, and then when I joined, like the same week I joined, they signed the contract. So I didn't do really anything.
Then why am I interviewing you today? I should be interviewing the people. No, it's cool, because you normally don't have these sort of opportunities, right? And sometimes it takes a big guy to join the company, right?
No, actually, it's funny because we fired the guy who sold this opportunity. He was fired the week before I joined.
Okay.
And we closed the deal
Such
the week I joined. And I didn't make a decision because I wasn't there, but it was a very senior sales guy, because at the end we were selling a complex solution that had not sold anything for like 2 years. But he had this thing in the pipeline. He didn't close it. They didn't think that he was going to close it. And then he closed it, and he was gone. I never actually met him. So yeah, I don't know where he is now.
And then, so would you say that by having this badge in your website or in your portfolio, things actually work in Switzerland? Did that help you land other customers in the same field?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean,
did they start like flooding every day?
No, it's not like that. But first of all, it's very easy to get meetings, with prospects, because at the end, when you work in this space that we work, people want to know what other countries are doing, what other governments are doing. They want to be informed, So getting that meeting when you have that reference is easy, and once you get that meeting, and you can show that this can be done successfully in a serious country like Switzerland, it generates almost immediate trust. So it makes things easier, not easy, but easier than if you don't have that reference.
Yeah, maybe you need also to be in the right time, in the right moment. What other advice would you give to people trying to sell to public administration, like governments or city councils, whatever, in terms of not only building a pitch deck or something? What did it help? Like have a very professional meeting, have a website, have a pilot?
I think it's very different, public sector from private sector. The dynamics are completely different. The purchasing process is also different. So besides the same things that are applicable to all verticals in general, which is you have to know who are the key stakeholders, who makes the decisions and all that. I think what is specific about the public sector is that that you need to, that there is a game, that you need to play, and there is a process that you need to follow, and you need to invest a lot of time. It takes much more time than selling in the private sector. But the good thing is that public sector customers tend to be extremely loyal. They are very risk averse. They don't like change. They hate new things, new people, new vendors. So once you're
potential new Scytls.
Once you're in, you're usually in forever unless you screw up in a project. But so it's worth the time and investment and the effort, because you get in and they will stay with you. It's true that people change, but people in government, they don't like changing things. So if it's been working well, why should we look for another vendor? You can keep the price at the same level, even though maybe the prices have gone down. They're not that price sensitive in government as they are in the private sector. So they will not switch vendors just because they think that they might find something that is cheaper. And then you can sell more stuff once you're in also. And that's it's part of our strategy. We're a company that when we started, we only had one solution, online voting. Now we have 24 solutions. Mm-hmm. So once we get in with one of our solutions, we try to sell the rest of the portfolio.
It's really weird in some sense that nobody gets fired for hiring IBM, right?
Yes.
But in your case, they hired a startup from Barcelona, from Switzerland. But anyways, I don't want to go back to that, but it's really cool. And probably the most funniest part of all is that probably one of the last countries to hire you has been Spain after 12 years, right?
Yeah, it's been
How is it that possible?
So because here we had a company that I'm sure many of you know, which is Indra. That was a company that was it used to be owned by the government. It was privatized, but it has always maintained very strong links with the Spanish government, that has had a de facto monopoly on elections since 1978, since democracy arrived to Spain.
Oh.
So we were able to break this monopoly last year with the general elections in Spain on December 20th. And again, it's what we talk about government. It's not only the high level political connections that matter. It's really the civil servants that run the elections, that are used to working with a vendor, and they are very reluctant to changing. So Indra was the incumbent. They were there. They knew the customer. They had run the elections quite successfully, by the way. So there was not really a big reason for the customer to change. And at the end, we had to put together a very compelling proposal, a very aggressive proposal in everything, the technology, pricing, everything, to get that customer away from Indra, because it's a big customer, and there are a lot of elections in Spain, and it's a very good reference.
Yeah, no jokes. Actually, you could show your portfolio operating worldwide, right? So Switzerland, the States, Australia, whatever. And you were not in Spain. So didn't they come actually to knock on your door, or it had to be you to go there?
No. Governments don't usually knock on your door. You have to go there and knock on the door, and then the only thing is that there is always a tender. There's a public procurement process with some rules, and again you have to play by the rules. But you can be, if you really want an account, you can be a little bit more aggressive, and that's what we did, and that's how we got it. But in Spain we've done other things. We've done things for the government here of Catalonia in elections. Mm-hmm. We've done things in the private sector with universities, with professional associations, with companies. The only place where we do elections in the private sector space is Spain. Outside of Spain, our focus is exclusively on the public sector.
Was that a strategy to build up some sort of portfolio or confidence or contacts in order to land this big contract with the Spanish government, or?
No, it was not really. I like to say that there was a big strategy, a big plan, right? A big 5-year plan. But
think of the video.
We were basically selling here because we're from here, and here in this case we had companies that would come to us and would say, "Listen, can you run our election?" And and we would do it. But at the end, the Spanish government, when they selected us to do the electronic results consolidation for the national election, it was based on our public sector references. It was based on the fact that we've done that in the US, in France, in the UK, in Australia, in many countries in the public sector. We then use our private sector references.
Okay. Now, actually, you were talking about you got 20-something different products. Maybe you can explain to the audience what kind of software or what kind of products are they, so that we can explain better what Scytl does. How do you operate? Sure. It's not only the voting, clicking here or there.
So basically,
right?
we do everything around an election. When you think about an election, you usually think about the voting, and the voting is really the tip of the iceberg. It's the most visible process within an election, but there are many other processes around an election. Before the election day, you have to register the voters, you have to manage all the different election logistics, you have to recruit and train the people that are going to be at the polling stations. So all those processes can be modernized through technology and can be improved through software. During the election day, besides the voting, you also have to manage, you have to provide support to the election officials, to the voters, you have to manage the voters list, and then after the election day, you have to consolidate the voting results from the different polling stations and report those results on a real-time basis and disseminate the results. So there are about 24 different processes in an election, and what we've done is we developed a solution for each one of these 24 processes, and this reaches from all the way from voter registration to election night reporting. And all these 24 solutions are integrated on a single platform. And what we do is when a customer has a specific need, we sell the platform with maybe one of the modules, and we integrate their legacy systems, and then over time we upgrade their election management system by upselling them some additional modules.
Perfect. In order to give them, the audience, some sort of context, so the company has been running since 2001, right? So you obviously expanded. From here you've got 5 or 6 development centers all around the world. Probably have got more offices. You've got 24 different products. And they always, the mentors and investors, they always tell us to focus on just one thing, right? How did you build that up? How did you increase your portfolio? Did you notice that were you building solutions tailored specifically for some clients, or they just came up for some opportunities in the market?
So we made a decision in 2010 when we closed our third round of financing. We basically realized that we were the clear market leaders in the online voting space. There were 21 countries at the time that were using online voting in public sector elections, and 19 of the 21 were using our technology. So we had like a 90% market share, and that was good, but at the same time was a risk because it was limiting our growth. Our growth depended on the development of the online voting market. So what we decided at the time is we saw that the opportunity was much bigger than just voting. We saw that we could basically transform the company from being the online voting company to being the election modernization company. And then we put together a plan. The plan included developing some of the solutions internally through R&D, and some of the solutions through acquisitions. And in 3 years we did a total of 7 acquisitions of companies that had products that would fit in our product portfolio. We made 3 acquisitions in the US, 2 acquisitions here in Europe, 1 acquisition in Canada, and another in Brazil. And then what we had at the end is like a big Frankenstein of software solutions with different technologies that didn't look the same, or they didn't look like coming from the same family, and we had to invest a lot in R&D to fix that Frankenstein and make it all look integrated and make it all look like it was coming from the same family.
Exactly, because throughout all this growth, right? So you bought, you mentioned how many companies. How do you keep the company culture at Scytl? What is it, first of all, and how do you keep it by expanding to so many different cultures and languages and countries around the world?
I don't know. I mean, I don't know if we have a very strong culture, to be completely upfront with you. I think, I mean, at the end, the company has evolved. It's true that there is some clear things that I think Scytl and the Scytl people have, but but it's not a super distinct culture, like some companies out there that because at the end the company is a company that has been created based on acquisitions, based on bringing in new people, new cultures. So I guess it's a very open culture, I would say. It's not like a sect, or a cult, where you have a very close type of culture. It's a very open company. And then honestly we haven't done a great job at integrating the companies that we have bought. We bought a lot of companies too quickly in different cultures, different countries, different technologies. So we've been struggling, I have to say, in the last couple of years, integrating and not only the technology but also the people, making everybody feel part of the same team. They still, when I go, for example, to Tampa, they still talk about the people in Barcelona as people that are from a different company. So that means that there is still room to do work and integrate some of the people that we have. Because it's not only integrating technology, integrating the different teams. And that's a big challenge.
As a CEO, do you think like company culture is something that gets in the way of what you want to get done, or else do you see it as a solution of this super high growth that you experienced in the past, and now try to make all the people melt together? I don't know. Do you see it as a solution or as a problem right now, in the short term?
No, I think it doesn't make sense to do something that is very artificial. I think the culture needs to be created. It's come from bottom up. It cannot come top down. You cannot say, listen, these are going to be our values, and we're going to implement these values in this company, because sometimes not all values work the same in all companies, in all environments. So I believe more in a bottom up culture type of creation, and that means that there are going to be traits in that culture that are going to be good, but there are traits that maybe not everybody's going to like. And one thing I like to say, and the HR people don't like me to say this, is when I hear, I'm from Scytl, is that Scytl is not for everyone.
Okay.
Yeah, there are people that are very happy at Scytl, but there are people that are not happy at Sitel. It's a reality. It's not like I don't think we're ever going to win the best place to work award.
Well, David Tomas has been here before, so you can talk about it.
David Tomas? Yeah. I mean, we're not that type of company. I mean,
exactly.
But again, it has some advantages or disadvantages. I mean, Sitel, you can really. I think you have the opportunity to change things, and to change the way, not only the way elections are run, but the way even democracy works. We just launched a new company called Open Seneca with Telefonica that is about citizen participation and citizen engagement. Mm-hmm. So you can be part of a project that has a big impact in society, and you can be involved in the US presidential election, in the national elections in Spain, in the elections in Australia. So you can do things that have a high impact. But if you are a software engineer, you're going to work under a lot of stress, because one thing that elections projects have is that there is a very specific date when the election needs to be happen, and you cannot move that date. And usually in a technology project, the first thing you do is you move the dates. So there is a lot of stress, and not everybody is prepared to handle that level of stress. That's the reality. That's why I don't think we're going to win the best place to work award anytime soon. Although there are people that they like the adrenaline, of working in a project that has a lot of potential, a lot of impact, a lot of intensity. Where you fail, you're putting the company at risk. But in some countries where we operate, you're putting the country at risk. We're working in places like Ivory Coast, like Ecuador, where basically people get killed, if they don't get the results on time, because there are disputes on who has won the election. So we have a big responsibility. So there are people that like that pressure and that responsibility, and there are people that kind of shy away, from that. So one thing I like to say, to tell the people that join Sitel is, listen, this is not for everyone. You need to understand what you're getting into, the pros and cons, and you need, if you want to join, you need to join knowing where you're getting into.
Is it kind of like the Fight Club? First rule of the Fight Club, you don't talk about it?
It's intense. It's a very intense,
uncomfortable.
It's a competitive type of culture on the sales side. Very competitive. We have 8 venture capital investors. So we're
I was gonna go
very
into that.
sales-driven, and meeting the quarterly numbers is the most important thing. So it's a sales-driven culture, which is by nature and by definition very competitive on the sales side, and on the engineering side is critical application, and also very intense, because you have to deliver in time and you have to deliver with very high quality, unless you want to make the front page of the newspapers the day after the election.
Actually, I was going to go into that, because there was this period a couple of years ago, 3 years ago, in which every time in the news you would get the headlines of Scytl raises a new round, and I would double check whether that was a repeated new or it was actually a new round, right? So what have you learned after having raised, I don't know how much did you raise in total, but multiple rounds in BC? What have you learned?
So we've done 4 rounds, but the fourth round was very big, was over 100 million, and we did that in different tranches.
Okay.
So what we were announcing is every time a new investor would put that tranche of that round, we would make an announcement. But no, I think what I've learned is that a little bit like VCs are a little bit like banks. You know, when you need the money, they're not there. You know, they shy away. But when you tell them I don't need the money, or I am talking with someone I'm in a very advanced stage with someone else, that's when you know it gets them all very excited. You know, and they are all over you. You know, and you can actually create some momentum and some hype around the company that can be very good to get a good deal and to get good investors. So I think it's like, I don't know, it's like everything else, like selling, dating, everything. You need to value your product very well. You know, you have to be very careful not to be too evident that you are desperate because you need the cash. You know, and you need to show that there is some competition for what you have. You know, and then play the game and try to choose the right people, the right partners. But I think one advantage now from 10 years ago when I joined Sitel is that now if you are a company based in Barcelona and you have a good project, it is very easy to attract international funds to Barcelona and invest in Barcelona. There are many companies in Barcelona that have raised in the last 18, 24 months rounds with international funds. So funds are becoming more used to investing in Barcelona-based technology companies, when 10 years ago it was something a little bit exotic, you know. And I think, and at the same time, I think in terms of early stage financing, there's never been so much alternatives or sources of financing, business angels, accelerators, connectors, all kinds of instruments, public and government loans and government grants. There's never been so much as today, and therefore getting the initial financing is I wouldn't say it's easy, but it's easier than it used to be. And getting the Series A, Series B, Series C is easier because international funds are looking increasingly at Barcelona technology companies.
Cool. Are you an investor yourself?
I'm not. I made some investments, not very successful, but I don't really have a lot of the time, you know, to because at the end, I think it's not. I mean, what these companies want is they want your money, but they also want your time, and you have to be honest, you know, to them, you know, and if you cannot give them the time that they need and the attention, then they can get money from somebody else that maybe has that time.
I was asking because normally there's this correlation which, if you're an investor, so the speakers and investors, he says there's a lot of money in Spain, there's a lot of money being poured in Barcelona, and if they are entrepreneurs who've never had any like big investment, I would say, they would say, no, there's no money, nobody is investing here, and I find it really curious. By the way, the next question was going to be, besides playing hard to get, what other advice would you give to the entrepreneurs here if they need to raise fundings from VCs? What other thing do you think it's really crucial?
Well, I mean, there are different schools of thought, you know, about how much you should raise, and you should raise just a little bit, or my advice is to raise as much as you can, because I mean, if you can make 2 mistakes. You can raise too little and then not have enough, and then the company goes bankrupt or has to do an emergency round where you basically lose, you get diluted in a big way. Or the second mistake is that you raise a little bit too much too early, and maybe you don't need all the money, and then what you're giving up some equity that you might not have to give up. But I think if you analyze the two mistakes, I think the first mistake has much worse consequences than the second mistake. So my advice is try to err on the safe side. Usually you need more money than what you think you need to do things. Things cost money. Before we talk about if you want to really build a company, you need to attract talent, and talent requires money. And it's true that you can give them stock options, but you cannot go with stock options to the supermarket or the grocery store and buy food. So you still need to pay salaries. So I think erring on the safe side and raising more money than you probably need is one of my advice. And again, there are people that are completely against that. And then maybe not being obsessed with the valuation. I think valuation is important. It's an important criteria, but it's more important making sure you bring the right people, the right partners, and the terms and conditions of the investment are the right terms and conditions. That you don't do something today or you sign something today that is going to hurt you when you do the next round, or when you really need to do something, you find out that because of the agreement you cannot take the action that you need to take.
Before going into the last part of the fireside chat, there's something I wanted to hear a word from you. Is you've been operating in Spain or Barcelona because what reason? I mean, you had no clients here, or you had really small clients in the private sector, but all your big clients were abroad. Why didn't you move? Wasn't it easier to operate from abroad than from Barcelona?
Well, we are a spin-off from a Catalan university, from the Autonomous University of Barcelona. So that's the reason why we were born here. And then I think Barcelona is a good place to be based. For us, it would not make sense to be based in the U.S. The U.S. is our biggest market, but the U.S. is a country that right now is perceived by other countries as a country that, I mean, let's put it this way, there are countries that wouldn't want a U.S. company to run their elections, because of the CIA, the espionage, the Snowden affair, So being a European company and being from a country that is not a threat to anyone, it's an advantage. We do business in the U.S., in Canada, but we also do business in the Ukraine, in Libya, in the Emirates, in many different environments and many different countries. So being in Spain is like being in Switzerland. It's a country that is not a threat to anyone. And then I think particularly in Barcelona, I mean the last 4 years it's been a huge success. There's a lot of talent, a lot of technology startups, a lot of VCs that are coming to Barcelona to look for potential investments, and we benefit from the Barcelona brand and from the Barcelona success. Although I have to say it's becoming increasingly difficult to find software engineers because of the success of the city. There's a lot of competition for software engineers, and there's a lot of startups, there's a lot of big technology companies that are setting software labs in Barcelona, and that creates competition in this market, and you have to look for engineers elsewhere and bring them to Barcelona.
Cool. Let's go into the last part of the conversation, which is kind of more casual topics. I would say the first one is, how is a day in your life? A day of Pere Vallès. How does it start? How does it evolve? How do you plan stuff?
Start at 5 o'clock in the morning. No, I'm kidding.
You're not that kind of person.
I actually start very late. I'm not going to say at what time I start, but I start late.
I start at 11. It's okay to start.
Really?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Big applause for that. Big applause for that. Now, it's very important because there's this culture of saying you need to sleep only 3 hours per night, work late, wake up early, work out in the morning, eat only fruit and seeds.
Yeah, no,
You're not that kind of person.
I do all the opposite to
perfect.
all that. But I think it's funny. This is being recorded, no?
Yeah.
It's funny
you can get it off for a price.
We have a new CFO. Hope he won't watch this. That we hired. He's a British guy who lives here in Barcelona.
Oh.
He's one of those super healthy guys that he lives in Castelldefels, but he goes with the bike to the office, and he's into sports. And the first day, the second day on the job, last week he was sick. He had. And I haven't been sick for 15 years. And I don't practice any sport. I drink alcohol. I smoke, and I don't have a very healthy life. So I guess the day to day is. Every day is different. I would say. Every day is a different challenge, meaning that we have lots of problems. So from the outside, when you look at Scytl, you think, well, this is a great company. These people are probably having a fantastic time, and every day is what I'm going to find in the office today, and what's the problem. And the problem can be a project that is not going as expected, and we don't know if we're going to be able to run the election, or they're going to cancel the contract, or an employee that has caused a big mess in one of the offices that we have somewhere, a problem of that nature. So a lot of firefighting, I won't say I have a very structured agenda, so I don't really know exactly what I'm going to do next week or the following week. So sometimes you have to do firefighting, and you don't know where you're going to be or what you're going to be doing, because you don't know what the problem is going to be. But at the same time, it's intellectually very stimulating. It's challenging, it's difficult, but if it was easy, anybody could do it, and it wouldn't be, it wouldn't have the payoff it has. At the end, the reason why we're all doing this is because we want to help democracy around the world, in the case of Scytl, but we also want to make some money by doing that, and the payoff is big because it's difficult.
Exactly. Next question is, have you got any productivity tip that you use every day and you would like to tell us? Something that helps you go through the day?
Honestly, I don't like those things. No,
they don't work.
No, because I think everybody's different, So I am not. One thing I do that I think is a good practice, and I try to do is, I always try to leave the inbox of my email empty within a week period. I cannot do it every day, but in the weekend, either I delete the email or I respond to it, but I get it out of my tray. I think it's a good practice. I think people, when they send you an email, it means sometimes it's for nothing, because we get covered to a lot of emails that are nothing, and you can delete those. But if they are asking you for something, I think it's very rude not to respond to them. And especially if you are the CEO of the company, I think you're sending a very bad message. It sends a message that you're not important, or we don't care what you're doing. So I try always to, when I get requests from people within the company, to respond.
Okay, that's very thoughtful. And what would be your advice if somebody in the audience, or you were somebody in the audience, and they wanted to contact people like you? So they have a big company, 600 employees, they probably have got a lot of management levels and middlemen. What would you advise them?
I get a lot of emails, direct emails, and I respond.
He answers mine.
I respond to emails. So I think I'm very accessible. Sometimes I've seen people that have said, I never thought you would respond to me, and I say, well, then why you send the email? But I think being accessible, I think responding to emails, it's just a matter of courtesy, and I always do it. So I think reaching out to the person you really want to talk is the right approach, because if you go with different people, information gets lost in translation, when you go through different layers. So I would advise, go direct to the person you want to talk to.
Perfect. One of the last questions is that we have talked about the Barcelona startup ecosystem and the economic ecosystem here in Barcelona. What would you think we need to improve to reach the next level?
I think there are already a lot of things that are working quite well in Barcelona. Obviously, one thing that needs to be fixed immediately, and I think there was one thing that was fixed recently, 6 months ago, but it hasn't received enough recognition, which is the whole immigration process for workers from outside the EU. Mm-hmm. It used to be a nightmare, and it used to take months to bring somebody from Russia or somebody from India. And now, in a matter of weeks, you can bring a very bright software engineer from India, that has a special skill. Mm-hmm. And that has changed, and that has improved. So the two other things I would improve, one is the tax treatment of stock options. It's it's outrageous, basically, to pay like 56% on something that you've built over a 10-year period of time, and then have a venture capital that basically has a very special tax treatment, and you as the founder or you as the employee that has earned those stock options by working very hard has to pay 56% tax. I think that's not very fair, and that's a big disincentive for companies to move to Barcelona. And then the third thing that should change is the bankruptcy laws. When you have to close a company in the US is something that is relatively easy and is relatively safe for the founder and for the management. In Spain, it's a very long process, a very difficult process. You have a lot of personal liability in that process, and it's very risky. So I think if you want to incentivize entrepreneurship, you need to not lower the barriers to entry, because at the end I don't think there are a lot of people that don't start their own company because they have to go twice to the notary instead of going once. I don't think that's that important. What you need to do is lower the barriers to exit. If things don't go as planned, you need to be able to shut down the company very rapidly, in a very easy way, and start another company again, as it happens in the US, and here in Spain is quite difficult.
Cool. One of the last questions is, how can we help Scytl from Startup Grind as a community?
Well, I think what you're doing, I think creating a brand in Barcelona for being a startup, tech friendly environment and friendly city, I think it's very helpful. I think, as I said, Barcelona is already on the map of all the key VCs. They're looking at opportunities here and creating this ecosystem and networking setting. I think it helps create new companies and create and it makes the ecosystem flourish, which I think it helps indirectly companies like us. At the end we benefit from this, and we also suffer sometimes because we lose people that go to startups because they like to begin something from scratch. Or we lose people that are in part of the ecosystem and that attend these type of conferences and they decide to create their own company.
Actually, I think one of the main fights right now in the hiring ecosystem probably is between King and you guys. I think there's a lot of competition for
we don't like the King guys.
Huh?
We don't like the King guys because they hired. They hired like 500 people in 2 years in Barcelona.
We had Manel in December here.
They've basically, it's been like a bump in the software engineering market in Barcelona that has exploded, and I think it's an artificial bump also. But it has created a lot of problems, and it's a company that it's a super friendly environment, and they have billboards and they play games and all that. But at the end, what you're doing, you're building stupid games, you're not really.
Oh my God.
You're not really changing anything or doing anything that is that different from. So I think it was Steve Jobs when he hired a CEO who was working for Pepsi, and he told the guy, what do you want to do for the rest of your life? You want to sell soda or you want to change the world,
Okay.
So you want to work for King, make video games, or you want to change democracy and work for Sitel?
That's a big message over here. Last question, Pere. Everybody has got a useless superpower. Okay, a superpower that is worth nothing. What's yours? Something that you do stupidly well, and it accounts for nothing.
Well, I can drink a lot of alcohol, but I don't know if
that's useful. In my book, it's useful.
It's good when you go to sales conferences. This is being recorded. I cannot say anything. But when you go to sales conference in government space, it's a very useful skill. So I would say it's useless.
You see, that's useful. You need something useless.
So I don't know. I don't know, Alex. What's yours?
Well, I've got many. One of them is locking the car, then walking away 25 meters, then having to go back because I haven't, I don't have the impression that I have locked the car. That's one.
But that's not a skill, no?
No, that's useless. It's useless. It's a superpower. That happens all the time. Or being able to tie the bow, the tie when you're super drunk or something like that. But it's really useless. But anyways, thank you. Big applause for Pere. Now we start with the Q&A.